To episode 5 of A Matter of Perspective. I'm your host, Bill Dalpy. We're very humbled by people reaching out, the people who are subscribing on YouTube. It's very heartwarming, but we want to hear from a lot of you to, either become a guest or, someone who wants to be a guest or just have some advice, maybe something you want to hear on a show. That would be really helpful to me. Even words of encouragement like, hey, listen, keep doing what you're doing. That all helps. That fuels me, right? That's my pay, if you will. All right. So if you want to reach out to us, the phone number is 508-677-7219. And the email is bdalpy@comcast.net. So I'd love to hear from you. Welcome. The last episode we had was with Christian Silva. I thought it was very good. A dad as me of a special needs child. And we share a lot of the same struggles, but it is amazing how different dads have different perspectives, right? And different lifestyles. And it's just amazing to me how that is. So when I was on Last Alone, I mentioned the term resentment a lot. I think it was like 3 times I mentioned it. And I just want to elaborate a little bit on that. And that's kind of the topic of this episode is the feelings that you can feel in a marriage and towards each other. All right. And one of them is resentment. Now, why did I resent my wife? Well, if you remember, I articulated I really didn't want to have another kid. Right? We're on that dock, that loving scene, looking in each other's eyes. And she says, I want to have another child. And I'm like, no. Well, we did, right? Obviously. And I articulated that in the last episode. But I had some resentment, right? When things went very difficult, right? Difficult times. Like Al's in the hospital, then he comes back and life goes on. And it gets very, very complicated. And resentment for me at that time took many forms. And one of them is I had a sharp tongue, right? That's something that I get from the Italian side of my family, but very sharp tongue early on. We got in an argument. I would say words I just, regretted. And I'm one of them, right? But I learned that, okay, that's not helpful. That's actually, destructive to a relationship. So then I started internalizing all right, I'll just not say anything, right? And kind of withdraw. We could be sitting on the couch, maybe watching TV, whatever, and I don't say 2 words or, so it's not really conducive to a nice mutual relationship. All right. So that's the way I handled that resentment. And it was all centered around, look how complicated our life is now. Right. And kind of blaming it on her in an indirect way. It sounds selfish. It sounds petty, but that's what the feeling I was feeling. Right. And I knew it was my issue. Obviously I love Alex and, but life was like 10 times more difficult and I would take it out on Beth. So finally one day, and I never articulated to her, like, why I was like that, right? So one day I remember it. I just said, look, I resent you, right? And this is why. And that made me feel like a weight was lifted from my chest. And I'm like, wow, that I've never really experienced something quite like that before, right? Where I was so honest. And, and that helped me verbalize other things in the relationship, right? So it was kind of like the gateway into really communicating. And, Beth didn't always like to hear what I had to say, but I knew that she was receptive to the feelings I was feeling and my truths, right? And that it takes 2 to tango, right? So it takes 2 to communicate, right? And that's the core of that, is honest communication. And I'm very blessed that Beth was able to receive it. She didn't like it, but maybe she understood, maybe she doesn't. If we ever have her on here, hopefully we do, we can revisit these things and get her perspective of that, right? You're only hearing one side here. But that was it. And I can't go on without saying that you're going to hear threads of faith all through this podcast. And our faith really did help us big time. We're not like Bible pushing, scripture quoting people, but we do believe in God, and plays an integral role in our life. We pray every night at dinner. Me and Alex say a prayer of Thanksgiving when he goes to bed, right? So, I need to think that played a big role in our success as a marriage, because, like Christian and I were talking about, the divorce rate for special needs parents is through the roof, is absolutely through the roof. And I believe that communication plays a huge role in that, absolute huge role. So let's take a break from that for a second. And I promised to show you a picture of Alex when he had that helmet. Remember I said he had so many myoclonic seizures that we had to put a hockey helmet on him, like at 2 years old. So here is Alex. Look how cute, right? 2 years old. And that's Billy in the background there. This was taken at the Providence Children's Museum, in Providence, Rhode Island. And he had to have that hockey helmet on. And then I'll show you another picture. Same place. I don't know if you can see this, but you can see the flush cheeks that Angela has and that Alex has. That was a very warm day inside that building. And Alex was starting, right after this, I took this actually, he started having a lot of myoclonic seizures. And then eventually, like a big seizure. But, that's one of his triggers, right? That's one of his triggers. And let me show you Alex now. This was taken, look at that guy, right? He went from a helmet to a fedora. How awesome is that? And I apologize for people listening to this. You can't see it. So go to YouTube. You'll be able to see it. But yeah, look how great and how handsome he looks. Cool shades, fedora. So he actually went to his prom. And Angela, thank God, our daughter Angela took him, and without her going, we probably, it would have been tough for us to have him go. Now we trust a lot of people in the school system, and that was I think it was the best buddies prom. We trust a lot of people, but that's a big one. It wasn't close, it was like a 45-minute drive. So, God bless Angela for being willing to take her brother there. It was very special, very, very special. But so that leads me into another topic of, call it scars, right? Battle scars, I guess. I don't know. We'll call it something. And what do I mean by that? Well, when Alex was younger, he has a few cousins, right? But one of his cousins, Samantha, is his age, 16. And they're only separated by a few months. And, we knew, early on, as we were getting into this with Alex, that he would be developmentally delayed. In fact, at the beginning, we thought he would be nonverbal because he was very late to talk. So we actually started teaching him some very basic sign language, but thank God he became verbal, right? So that's awesome. But, we don't really compare Alex, but at that time it was so new that I'm like, wow, look at Samantha, look at what she's doing, and Alex wasn't there, right? And he probably wouldn't get there in what, the abilities, whether it be, gross motor, fine motor, cognitively. And I remember many times, both Beth and I just in tears, right? Just, realizing that Alex probably wouldn't get there, right? It's very, at the beginning, it's very, very sad. It's very, very heart-wrenching, and especially as Samantha gets older and older, they're 16 now, right? So Samantha has her permit. She's got a job. She's doing star volleyball player. And Al's Al, right? He'll never drive, probably never get married. In fact, I mean, in my heart, I hope maybe something like that could happen in the future. But, cognitively, he's like a 5-year-old. Even with Billy. So one of my outlets during all these years was with my son, Billy, right? He's a Marine now. Praying to God to get him on here and Angela soon to get their perspective. But I did scouting with him, baseball with him, you name it. And that was kind of my outlet. But I remember being on a scouting trip. It was a Cub Scout trip. And laying in my tent and thinking of Alex, which I often did on those trips. And just sobbing like a baby. Because I knew that Alex wouldn't be able to have this experience, right? Due to his seizure triggers, and it's just very heart-wrenching. There were a lot of tears. And look, I'm a man, I'm a man's man. I'm not, people will know me, but it's okay to cry. It's okay to let out those feelings, right? It definitely is okay. And I did. And to me, that's healthy, right? Letting that out, especially I'm a type of guy that keeps things in, unfortunately. And that was good, but it does make you sad. And I mentioned on a previous episode that Alex was on the ketogenic diet. And part of that was weighing every little bit of food, like down to the gram. And I remember there was an Easter where instead of chocolate, like the other kids running around getting chocolate, we had to put like half a pecan or a pecan. One whole pecan was a huge thing in a plastic egg. And he would eat that like it was chocolate. And right now, just saying it, like I'm choked up. Like we just reduced to tears. It's like, oh my gosh. And then he reached an age where he would look outside and see the neighborhood's kids play. And, and I'm the guy who's very blunt. Like I'm not blunt in like a ignorant or like mean way, but, I like to tell Alex the way it is, and whether he understands or not, that's another topic. But he would look outside, and on an August day, and kids playing. So there's two huge triggers. There's the heat, and then the activity. Right, guaranteed seizure. Yeah, like I'm the parent who pushes the envelope, and I used to push it back then. And I remember a time it was August or July, humid. We're outside, and I had him just like, not run, but kind of trot like 40 feet, and he fell down, had a seizure, right? So that it gives you like that shock feeling, right? When you try to do that again, right? But anyway, so he would look outside wanting to play again, rips your heart out. But I would turn to him and I'd say, Alex, why, do you know why you can't go outside? And I can't remember what age I did this to him or said this to him. And he didn't say anything. I said, because you'll probably have a seizure, right? It's mom and dad's job to keep you safe. And, very blunt, very matter of fact, right? And now he's at the age of 16 where I'll say, well, why can't you do that? And he'll say, oh, because I'll have a seizure. Right. So that's part of that, so that's scarring, if you will. So I don't cry anymore about that. That's just, it goes with it. Right. And again, do not forget our motto. If Alex is smiling, we're smiling. Right. So hopefully if you're a parent listening to that and you're going through that, the beginning stages of this, and there's no way around the heart-wrenching feeling, but you'll get over it. You'll come through it, right? And try to embrace that philosophy of if they're smiling, you're smiling. It can be tough, though. It can be tough. And look, I don't want to flood this whole episode of, oh, look what Alex can't do, right? So we got to turn around and say, what can he do? Right? Look at the things he can do and be thankful for it. Right. So, yeah. So that's about it for this episode. Very, very short and sweet, but if you know anyone who could benefit from this, just share it with them. Right. And know that they're not alone. People have gone through it, and talk about changing your perspective, not to change the subject, but, I met with a friend who I did scouting with, Cubs all through Boy Scouts. And he came to my office yesterday and told me he had lung cancer, right? And this guy is salt of the earth, love him like a brother. And that changed my perspective, right? It's like, holy crap, like I can't believe, it just, the older you get, that more and more of that is happening, right? Where, people are passing away or people getting sick. And it's just, you got to count every day. You just be thankful for every day, and there's days that I don't want to get up out of bed, right? So depression is another part of this, another part of it, because it can really consume you, how should I call it? The mundaneness, like the kind of like Groundhog Day, right? Bill Murray got up, same thing happened. That Alex has a routine. It's the same routine, weekends, weekdays, and it can get old, right? It can get old. And my biggest thing now at my age and where we are in a marriage, I'm the one getting antsy. I'm like, we should be going out on dates, like me and my wife, which that's another thing. When you have a special needs child, like your time that you normally work on your marriage probably isn't there, or it's very different. It's very, very different. So that's where communication comes in, right? Again, communicating is so key. It's so key, but it takes two to tango. So I can see where some parents or couples would say, a dad or a mom says, okay, I got to communicate, and bears their soul to the other partner, and the other partner is not receptive to it, or now is resentful towards them because they said that, right? That's a problem, right? That's a problem. So if you are going through something, you can't work it out, go see a marriage counselor, right? It's like a big puzzle piece, and it can be put together, but you got to both want to do it, right? You got to both want to do it. Like Christian Silva, my last guest, he mentioned the 5 love languages or whatever. That's a book that I think I put it in the show notes, but if not, I'll revisit that and put it in there. We all show love differently. And just because you expect a certain version of love and you're not getting it, doesn't mean you're not getting love, right? And I know that sounds kind of weird, but yeah, well, I'll elaborate that on another show, because I got to get my ducks in a row on that one. I myself have not read that book, but I can definitely see the value in it. And I'm sure there's physical love, there's service love, right? Things like that. So I'm more of a physical guy, right? When my wife is more of a service person, right? My wife is the most selfless person I know. When I think of the word selfless, if I ever hear that, I think of my wife, right? So she shows her love in that way, where I tend to show in others, right? Doesn't mean that either one of us are wrong, but if one partner wants one version and not getting that, you got to communicate, right? Absolutely got to communicate. So that's about it. Kind of rambled a little bit. And again, I really don't want to make this about me, but I'm finding that this is almost like therapy for me, especially these sessions I do alone. But I know a lot of people are curious about Alex, especially people in the community. The community has been involved with Alex since go. Like I mentioned, the service dog on that one of the episodes, we could not pay for that dog. Right. So that's another aspect of it. And I'll say it's kind of like pride, right? I'm like an old fashioned guy. Like I provide for my family. Right. Cause Beth couldn't work because of, because Alex, like I said earlier, she had to sell her half of the business, and, the whole money making thing fell on my shoulders, which is fine. But to get Treasure, that service dog, we couldn't pay for it out of pocket. I couldn't take a loan out for it. We had to do fundraising. Like that was their requirement. And for me, that took a lot of, I guess we'll call it pride swallowing, right? Because I don't like to ask anything from anybody. That's just the way I was raised. It's just the way I am. And I think a lot of people, a lot of dads are like that. And yeah, so the community did a fundraiser. Right. My mom and dad were a part of it. My sister, my brother, right. A lot of other people were a part of it and raised the money for Treasure. And we went down and made that trip and got Alex a service dog, which is amazing, right? They train the dogs to pick up on pheromones before a seizure happens. Pretty amazing stuff, right? So for a year, they sent us a whole box full of t-shirts, white t-shirts that Alex would have to wear every day. As soon as he had a seizure, we'd rip that t-shirt off, jam it in a Ziploc bag, and FedEx it to them. And they used that to train Treasure. And how we got introduced to Treasure, picture this. There's a big room. There's like 10 of us, maybe 9 of us. And we're all sitting in little groups. And the cage is like on the opposite side of the room. And they open up all the cages and all the dogs went to their prospective owner. It was just absolutely amazing. It's amazing how dogs can pick up on the pheromones. And that was the whole shtick to that, was, again, the leading cause of death, and still is, which of kids is death in their sleep because of a seizure. So we did everything we could to help prevent that, right? So that's where the service dog comes in, where he would alert us, right? He would pick up on the seizure before it actually physically happened and alert us so we could go in there and administer emergency meds or whatever we had to do. So pretty amazing stuff. Pretty amazing stuff. In fact, my friend that I just was mentioning, I won't mention his name, but who has lung cancer, he said his dogs kept had a real special attention to his mouth and his breath. And it's like they can pick up on the cancer. It's just amazing how animals can be, right? But yeah, Treasure died a few years ago now. So, but anyway, so that was another thing. How would Alex react to Treasure's death, right? So that was a huge concern of ours. Like, will he have seizures? Will he? But he didn't, and he still asks for him once in a while. But he gets it. He gets it. So. All right, I'm rambling just a bit, but, I thank for all the support. Again, if you like what I'm doing, let me know, right? It's not an ego thing. It's just, that's how I get paid for this, right? Is you letting me know, hey, these words are good. The guest you have on are good. Like the guest we have on for next week is really, really good. You're really going to enjoy her. So that's what keeps me motivated to do this. It took me a long time to make this video. So anyway. So reach out. The phone number is 508-677-7219, or you can email me at bdalpy@comcast.net. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple. We're trying, I'll expand to more venues soon. We have a website, matterofperspective.org, where you can access all those venues to either hear or see us, right? So if you do go on YouTube, please subscribe, hit the like button, all that kind of stuff. And so the moral of this episode is just communicate with your partner, right? Communication is key. Stay positive, take one day at a time, and do your best. If you're having a tough time getting out of bed, just do your best to change your perspective. All right. So God bless, and we'll see you on the next one.